Alright, boys and girls, we're back for another day working on the buggy. We're going to try and install the steering column and cut holes, so get ready for the adventure. Okay, so we're going to try and cut the hole in the front firewall here. And unfortunately, this is kind of like a big decision. I've seen so many people cut holes and they end up with a big oval there, and I'm hoping not to do that. So what I've done is I looked online and I found one little small article that showed how Meyers did it originally. And what they did was they had a piece of cardboard or wood. I think they showed wood because wood was cheap and plentiful back then. And what they did was they cut a little notch in it. Alright, like that. And that little notch goes over the front firewall here. Okay? And what I did was I marked where my steering column shaft comes out to right there. And then when I had the dash on, I held my steering wheel up where I wanted it. Alright. And I measured from the floor up to the center of the steering wheel. And then I measured off the steering wheel to the dash. And then I was measured from the firewall to where that point of the dash was, and I marked that on the floor. Alright, right here. And that way, when I put this cardboard back in here, I was able to get a reference point to measure up to put where the center of my steering column hopefully is. Now I have a pattern that I can line up with this, line up with that, and this mark, I connected the two dots from the one marked for the made for the steering box and the mark I made for the center of the steering wheel. And those should bring me to a point here to drill a hole. And drilling the hole, I'll just line up with the steering box when I go to drill the hole and put it at a slight angle too. So, got that done. Got my template there. And also I'm going to use this template to cut the hole into the dash, because I'll put the hood back on and I'll just trim this template so it matches my mark here and kind of gets close to the dash, and then I can drill the hole in the dash with that. So hopefully, if everything works out right, we'll have a nice tight fitting steering column and not some big oblong hole. But you never know, it might be a big oval. I might make Mickey Mouse ears or something, I don't know. So anyways, let's get this thing cutted. Alright, so I measured my steering column and it is 1 5/8, so I got myself an 1 5/8 hole saw. I'm going to take my template, put back in there so I can get my angle correct, and drill a hole. Okay, so we got the hole drilled in the firewall. Now what we're going to do is drill the hole in the actual dash, and hopefully everything will line up. What I did is I'm using the template still, and before I did anything I measured where the end of the column steering wheel will be, and also I measured from the steering wheel to the dash. Alright, and that gives me 8 inches was my measurement from the back of the steering wheel to the dash. So that gives me a reference point of where my dash is, all right? And that gives me the line that I'm going to have to be on. So now we're going to put the dash back on there. I might have to trim this a little bit because the dash is kind of like a slope, but that will give me a point that I can get a mark on the dash and we can cut a hole. At least that's the theory. Alright, so that's set in there. And that's approximately where I got to drill my hole. So I'll make sure this is all the way pulled back. And also another note, you might want to have your speedometer in when you're doing all this, so you can make sure that depending on how far or back the steering wheel is can block your speedometer. And of course mine does a little bit, but at least you can move this back and forth, which will change the angle on this a little bit, or up and down, to be able to see your speedometer better. So just a little tip there, put your speedometer in there, make sure you can see what you need to see at least. Alright, that hole's in there. It looks like it pretty much lines up. We'll see. Might have to do a little clearancing around it, but we'll check it all out. Alright, it is in there. Took a little more effort than I thought it would take, but it's in there pretty well. And around the dash, I did have to go and grind out, focus here. Had to grind out around the dash with a little rasp. And I had to, the steering column support bracket was a little farther over this way, so I had to grind some of that, but nothing crazy, nothing major. Let's see if we can turn a flashlight on, and you can see that's dead nut centered on there. That's pretty nice right there. And it's fitting pretty nice right there. I'm going to put the windshield on and make sure that's all good, but not bad. Probably the only thing I'd suggest is steering column support bracket probably should be in there but not painted, because I painted mine already. You know, because you might have to grind on it, you might have to cut it and weld it and move it. It's all about where it's going to all land. I don't have my adapter on for the steering wheel, but you know, it will push it back a few more inches. It looks a little high from where I'm at, but I'm going to sit in there and make sure that's all good, and we'll get to work on the next part. Alright, sitting in the buggy, everything looks pretty good. Another note, this is more about planning out your gauges and stuff. I have 3 extra gauges. One's fuel, one's oil pressure, and one's boost. Good idea to sit in the car and put your hands up where your steering wheel will be, so you can make sure you're not going to block anything with your hands that would be important, or you might have to juggle some gauges around. Good example, when I have my hand right here, alright, this is about where my eyesight can see, just naturally, and it's blocking one gauge. Alright, so that will be my least important gauge, which will be fuel pressure, a fuel sending unit. Fuel gauge will be right here, because you're not looking at that every second. Oil pressure, boost, you'll look at those a little every now and again, you know, but the hand does block that, so something to keep in mind. Anyways, boys and girls, thanks for following along. This actually came out pretty well. Did have to do a little bit of trimming around the dash part, but that's to be expected. It's not ungodly horrible, and it's hard to see the dash part anyways in there. Down here is the bigger thing. That came out really well. The cardboard setup worked really well for that, and placement of the steering wheel, I got plenty of leg room My knees are not bumping the steering wheel, so that's all good. Hands aren't hitting the side of the buggy or anything like that. So all in all, the little cardboard template worked really well for me. I really recommend that if you are looking for a way to do the holes in the body. So anyways, boys and girls, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get out there and get our projects done, and I'll see you later.